Does your cat really love you? Or are you simply a warm surface with an opposable thumb and access to food? It's a question that sounds like a joke, and yet scientists have spent decades trying to answer it seriously. The feline mind is one of the most studied and least understood in all of animal behaviour. Cats have lived alongside humans for roughly 10,000 years, and in all that time, they have managed to remain genuinely mysterious. Not because they lack inner lives, but because their inner lives are so different from ours that we keep misreading them. Tonight we're going to change that, one quiet discovery at a time. Settle in. Let your body grow still. Let the sounds of the day drift back where they came from. This is a slow journey through 100 things science has learned about cats, about the way they think, the way they feel, the way they see the world, and yes, whether any of that has anything to do with you. If you're listening with a cat somewhere nearby, perhaps curled at your feet or pressed against your side, consider yourself already part of the experiment. Before we begin, if these calm explorations help you unwind and give you a peaceful way to end your day, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It helps others find their way here too. One sleepy soul at a time. Now, take a slow breath. Let your thoughts soften and let's begin. Cats were not domesticated so much as they domesticated themselves. Most domestic animals were brought into human life through deliberate effort. Sheep were herded, horses were trained, dogs were selectively bred over generations for specific tasks. But cats came in on their own terms. Around 10,000 years ago in the Near East, as human settlements began storing grain, rodents arrived to feast on it. And behind the rodents came cats. They were not invited. They simply appeared, realized the hunting was exceptional and stayed. Humans, finding this arrangement mutually beneficial, tolerated them. Over thousands of years, the cats that were comfortable around people survived better and passed that ease along to their offspring. It was a slow, unplanned partnership. Neither side entirely chose the other, and in some ways, neither side entirely gave up their independence. This origin story matters because it explains something important about every cat that has ever refused to come when called. Cats share nearly 90% of their genetic material with tigers. They are not miniature tigers exactly, but the similarities run deep. The same ambush hunting style, the same retractable claws, the same loose shoulder blades that allow for that fluid, reaching stride. When your cat crouches low before pouncing on a toy mouse, it is running software that was written for stalking prey through tall grass. The scale is different. The instincts are essentially the same, and knowing this makes it easier to understand why cats sometimes seem to operate by rules you didn't agree to and can't quite change. Cats have 32 muscles in each ear, compared to 6 in a human ear. They can rotate each ear independently, which means one ear can track a sound behind them, while the other monitors something to the side. In a quiet room, a cat can detect the faintest rustle of a mouse beneath a layer of leaves. They can hear frequencies up to 65 kHz, well beyond the range of human hearing, and higher even than dogs. This is not idle biological luxury. Rodents communicate in ultrasonic frequencies that humans cannot perceive at all. Cats can. The ears are a precision instrument, always working, always sweeping the room. That slight twitching movement you see even when your cat appears to be sleeping is the ear staying alert, cataloguing every sound in the environment just in case. A cat's whiskers are not decorative. They are sensory organs of extraordinary sensitivity. Set at specific widths that correspond roughly to the width of the cat's body, whiskers help a cat judge whether it can pass through a gap without getting stuck. But they also detect subtle shifts in air pressure. When a cat is in darkness, moving quickly, the whiskers sense the air currents disturbed by nearby objects, providing a kind of spatial map of the environment. Some whiskers are located above the eyes, functioning like eyebrows. Others appear on the back of the front legs. All of them feed information back to the brain. When a cat folds its whiskers back flat against its face, it is usually trying to streamline itself for a tight space, or signalling discomfort. When they fan forward during eating, the cat is gathering information about the food with every bite. Cats have a third eyelid, called the nictitating membrane. It moves horizontally across the eye from the inner corner and provides an extra layer of protection during hunting, when the risk of eye injury is high. In a healthy cat, you rarely see it. But when a cat is unwell or deeply relaxed, This thin membrane sometimes becomes visible at the inner corner of the eye. It is a small thing, but it is one of those reminders that beneath the sleek, familiar exterior of a domestic cat is a body built for the wild. Cats have a scent organ that humans do not. It is called the Jacobson's organ, or vomeronasal organ, and it sits in the roof of the mouth. When a cat holds its mouth slightly open in that strange, trance-like expression that looks almost like disgust, it is actually drawing scent particles toward this organ. The behaviour is called the Feline response, and it allows the cat to analyse chemical information at a level of detail far beyond what the nose alone can provide. Pheromones, territorial markings, information about other animals, all of it passes through this secondary scent processor. The expression looks odd. The process it serves is remarkable. Cats do not meow to communicate with other cats. They meow almost exclusively to communicate with humans. Researchers have observed that feral cats, living without significant human contact, rarely meow at one another. They have a rich repertoire of silent body language, of scent marking, of vocalizations like chirping, chattering, growling, and trilling. But the meow as a sustained and flexible form of communication appears to have developed specifically in the context of the human relationship. Over thousands of years of cohabitation, cats seem to have learned that humans respond to vocal sounds, and so they evolved a vocabulary aimed directly at us. Your cat is not speaking a language it shares with other cats. It developed this language for you. Within that vocabulary, individual cats develop personalized sounds. Studies show that cats modulate the pitch, tone, duration, and intensity of their meows based on what they want and based on what has worked before with their particular human. An urgent meow at 4 in the morning when the food bowl is empty sounds meaningfully different from a greeting at the door. Most cat owners recognize these distinctions intuitively, and they are right to. The differences are real and intentional. What is remarkable is that this entire system is improvised. Cats are not born knowing how to talk to humans. They learn it in real time, one interaction at a time. Cats can purr at frequencies between 25 and 150 Hz. Within this range, vibration has been shown to promote bone density, stimulate healing in soft tissue, and reduce pain. These are not fanciful correlations. Research in veterinary medicine has studied the therapeutic potential of these frequencies in some depth. Cats purr not only when content, but also when anxious, when in pain, and when dying. The current thinking is that purring may serve a self-soothing function, a kind of internal medicine the cat administers to itself in times of stress. When your cat purrs against your chest, it may be comforting itself. It may also, as a secondary effect, be doing something quietly beneficial for you. The two possibilities are not mutually exclusive. The purring mechanism itself is generated by rapid movements of the muscles in the larynx which dilate and constrict the glottis, the part of the vocal folds that surrounds the voice box with each breath. The sound occurs on both the inhale and the exhale, which is why a purring cat sounds continuous. No other animal on Earth produces this sound in exactly this way. It is unique to the cat family, and even within that family only certain species can do it. Lions roar, cats purr. The trade-off was made long ago, and it has served them very well. Cats spend between 12 and 16 hours a day sleeping. Kittens and senior cats sleep even more, sometimes approaching 20 hours. This is not laziness, it is biology. Cats are what is called crepuscular animals, meaning they are most naturally active at dawn and dusk. The hours when small prey animals are most active. The long hours of rest preserve energy, for the intense bursts of speed and precision required by hunting. A cat's top speed is roughly 30 miles per hour. Sustaining that requires enormous caloric and muscular resources. Sleep is how those resources are rebuilt. Even in a domestic cat that has never hunted a day in its life, the biological schedule persists, which is why your cat may be asleep on your sofa for most of the afternoon and then decide at 2 in the morning that it is time to run laps. Cats do not always sleep deeply. They have 2 phases of sleep, a light drowsing phase and a deeper REM sleep phase. During that light phase, which occupies most of their rest time, a cat can go from apparently asleep to fully alert in a fraction of a second. The eyes may appear closed, but the ears are still rotating. The whiskers may be twitching. The brain has not fully switched off. It is in a state of vigilant rest, ready to respond to any change in the environment, This is one reason why cats often seem to materialize from nowhere the moment something interesting happens. They were not sleeping in the way you might assume, they were simply waiting. During deep sleep, cats do dream. Their brains cycle through the same REM patterns observed in humans and other mammals during dreaming sleep. You can sometimes observe a sleeping cat in what looks unmistakably like a dream state, paws twitching, face moving, a soft chirp or murmur escaping. What they dream about is not something we can measure directly, but given the way memory and REM sleep function in other mammals, it is likely that cats replay experiences from their waking lives, running, hunting, perhaps occasionally the humans they live with. Cats have a remarkable navigational ability that scientists call SI trailing. This is the phenomenon in which a cat, separated from its home by significant distance, manages to find its way back. Documented cases involve cats navigating hundreds of miles of unfamiliar territory to return to a previous home. In one famous case in 1954, documented by parapsychologist J.B. Rhine at Duke University, a cat named Sugar travelled over 1,500 miles across the American West to reunite with its family after being left behind during a move. Rhine spent considerable effort ruling out imposter cats and alternative explanations. The case remained genuinely difficult to explain. Scientists believe cats may use a combination of the Earth's magnetic field, the angle of sunlight, olfactory landmarks, and spatial memory. But the exact mechanism is still not fully understood. What is clear is that the capacity is real, and that its precision is extraordinary. Cats blink slowly as a form of communication. If you have ever caught a cat watching you from across a room and slowly, deliberately closing and opening its eyes, you have been given what researchers call a slow blink, sometimes described as a cat kiss. A 2020 study published in Scientific Reports, led by psychologist Karen McComb at the University of Sussex, found that cats respond more positively to humans who perform slow blinks at them compared to humans who maintain a neutral, open expression. Cats that received slow blinks from humans were more likely to approach and interact. This study suggested that slow blinking may be a signal of relaxed, friendly attention, a way of saying I am not a threat, I notice you, I am calm in your presence. Slow blink at your cat. There is a reasonable chance it will slow blink back. Cats use their tails to express an entire grammar of emotional states. A tail held high and vertical is a greeting signal, often used specifically for humans they know well. Kittens use this posture with their mothers. The fact that adult cats use it with their human companions suggests a kind of permanent social infantilism, a state in which the cat treats the person as it would treat a trusted, nurturing adult. A tail curled at the very tip while held upright adds warmth and affection to the greeting. A tail lashing from side to side is a sign of agitation, not playfulness. A puffed tail indicates fear or aggression. A tucked tail signals submission or anxiety. Reading the tail changes everything about how you interpret what a cat is doing. And cats, it should be noted, read each other's tails with precision. Cats knead soft surfaces with their paws in a behaviour often called making biscuits. It begins in kittenhood, when the kneading motion stimulates milk flow from the mother's body. In adult cats, the behaviour carries forward as a reflex associated with pleasure, contentment, and the memory of physical safety. When a cat kneads your lap, it is, in a biological sense, expressing the same feeling it had as a nursing kitten. Warm, safe, cared for. It is one of the more genuinely touching things a cat can do, and it is entirely involuntary. The cat is not performing it for you. It is simply feeling something, and the feeling comes out through the paws. Cats bring their owners dead prey not out of cruelty and not by accident. The behaviour is deliberate and its motivation is social. In feral cat colonies, experienced hunters will bring prey back to kittens or less skilled colony members to teach them to hunt and to feed them. When your cat deposits a mouse or a small bird at your feet, it is filing you somewhere in its social hierarchy as someone who either needs to learn to hunt better or who needs to be fed. It is, in its own way, care. The cat has assessed you, found you lacking in certain skills and decided to help. You are welcome. Cats do not show submissive behaviour in the way dogs do. Dogs have evolved a rich vocabulary of submission signals, belly exposure, gaze aversion, tail tucking. because they are pack animals in which hierarchical relationships require constant maintenance. Cats are primarily solitary hunters. Their social relationships are chosen rather than assigned. This means that a cat that approaches you is making a genuine social choice. It is not following an instinct to defer to a dominant animal. It is deciding, based on its own assessment, that you are worth being near. There is something more voluntary about feline affection, and that is not a small thing. When a cat presses its head against a person or an object, the behaviour is called bunting. It deposits scent from glands located near the temples, cheeks and chin. When a cat bunts against your hand or your face, it is marking you with its own scent. In cat social dynamics, this is an act of ownership but also of belonging. The cat is not just saying, "You are mine." It is also saying, "I am yours." The scent sharing is reciprocal in its social meaning. Cats that live together will bunt each other regularly, particularly between individuals that have close social bonds. When your cat rubs its face against your hand, it is pulling you into its scent world, including you in the group it considers safe. Cats can detect the smell of illness in humans. Their olfactory systems are extraordinarily sensitive, capable of identifying chemical changes in sweat, breath and skin that are imperceptible to human senses. There are anecdotal reports, supported by some medical case studies, of cats drawing attention to cancerous growths, infections, and even changes in blood sugar levels in diabetic owners. Therapy cats have been observed becoming unusually attentive and physical toward people approaching a medical crisis. The mechanism is almost certainly olfactory. The cat is detecting something in the body's chemistry. What it makes of this information is harder to say. But the detection itself appears to be real. Cats have individual personalities, and research has begun to map them with some consistency. A 2017 study from the University of South Australia identified 5 major personality dimensions in domestic cats, sometimes called the Feline 5. These are neuroticism, extroversion, dominance, impulsiveness, and agreeableness. The dimensions parallel human personality models more closely than many people would expect. Cats that score high on neuroticism, for instance, are more anxious, more easily startled, and more likely to hide in response to change. Cats that score high on extroversion are more curious, more playful, more likely to seek novelty. These traits are stable across time and appear to be influenced by both genetics and early experience. Your cat's personality is not random. It has structure, and science can describe it. Kittens that are handled gently by humans between 2 and 7 weeks of age are significantly more likely to be sociable toward people as adults. This is called the socialization window, and it is one of the most important periods in a cat's development. What happens during those weeks shapes the cat's orientation toward people for the rest of its life. Cats that miss that window, ferals born without human contact, are rarely able to fully bond with humans afterward. They may tolerate proximity. They rarely seek it. The lesson for animal welfare is significant, but it also tells us something about domestic cats. The ones that seem deeply bonded to their humans were, in most cases, given something early on that laid the groundwork. A gentle hand, a quiet voice, the simple reassurance that humans could be trusted. Cats can recognize their owner's voice. A 2013 study published in Animal Cognition, conducted by researchers at the University of Tokyo, played audio recordings of cat owners and strangers calling their cats names. The cats showed distinctive orienting responses when they heard their owner's voice, turning toward the sound, moving their ears, widening their pupils, even moving toward the speaker, while showing less marked responses to strangers. Critically, the cats rarely came to their owners when called, which the researchers noted dryly. But the response pattern confirmed that the cat recognized and distinguished the voice. The decision not to come is a separate matter, presumably one the cat has strong feelings about. The domestic cat is one of the few animals that has been shown to display what researchers call social referencing with humans. This means that when a cat encounters something ambiguous or uncertain, it looks to its owner's face to gauge how to respond. Studies have shown that cats look between a novel object and a human caregiver in a pattern that mirrors what human infants do. They are using the human's emotional reaction as information. If the owner appears calm and relaxed, the cat is more likely to investigate. If the owner appears tense or fearful, the cat is more likely to withdraw. This behaviour was long thought to be exclusive to highly social species. Its presence in cats tells us something about how deeply the human-cat relationship has become wired into feline behaviour. Cats can distinguish between different humans by face as well as voice. Research published in 2023 in the journal Learning and Behaviour found that domestic cats could distinguish photographs of their owner's face from photographs of a stranger's face, and showed distinct behavioural responses to each. They were more likely to orient toward images of familiar humans, particularly their primary caregiver. This capacity for individual face recognition was, until recently, not widely credited in cats. It now appears to be real, which raises interesting questions about how a cat's social world is organised. They know who you are. They are keeping track. Cats have a concept of object permanence. When something disappears from their sight, they do not assume it has ceased to exist. They search for it. This is a cognitive capacity that human infants do not fully develop until around 8 months of age, and its presence in cats indicates a level of mental modelling of the physical world that goes beyond simple stimulus response. If your cat watches a toy roll under the sofa, it knows the toy is still there. It will wait, sometimes for a very long time, sometimes with an intensity that suggests it has entirely forgotten you exist. Cats are capable of a form of episodic memory, the ability to recall specific events rather than simply general information. A 2023 study demonstrated that cats could remember both what they had eaten and where they had eaten it, over intervals of time that ruled out simple associative memory. This places them in a cognitive category that includes crows, primates, and dolphins. Memory of specific episodes implies a richer internal experience of time, a sense of what happened, where, and perhaps in what sequence. What your cat does with this capacity is not something researchers can yet fully describe, but it has it. Cats understand physics to a degree that was underestimated until recently. A 2016 study from Kyoto University found that cats anticipate the location of a hidden object based on a causal understanding of gravity. When researchers shook a container that should have contained an object and then opened it to reveal nothing, cats stared at the container for significantly longer than when the contents matched expectations. They were surprised. The violation of physical expectation captured their attention in a way that required understanding that objects fall downward, that containers should hold things, and that a rattling sound implies contents. This is intuitive physics, and cats have it. The domestic cat can count, or at the very least distinguish between quantities. Studies using habituation methods, where researchers track how long a cat looks at something new versus something expected, have shown that cats notice when a number changes. They respond differently to groups of 2 objects and groups of 3 objects presented in succession. They are not doing arithmetic, but they are tracking numerical information, and that tracking is more sophisticated than it looks. Cats have an extraordinary sense of time. They do not experience time the way you and I do in units and schedules, but they have a precise internal clock. Owners frequently report that their cats appear at the door at the same time each evening, wait by the food bowl at consistent meal times, and seem to know when a family member is about to return home before any audible cue is available. Some of this is probably explained by olfactory detection of patterns in human behaviour. Some of it may involve the cat tracking changes in light and ambient sound. But the consistency of time-related behaviour in cats suggests an internal rhythm that is genuinely precise. A 2019 study found that cats have a sense of their owner's location. Researchers used an audio illusion to create the impression that an owner's voice was coming from a location inconsistent with where the owner had last been seen. Cats showed surprise at the apparent discrepancy, looking longer and with wider pupils at the speaker than when the voice seemed to come from a consistent location. This suggests that cats maintain a kind of internal model of where their owner is in space. Even when the owner is not visible, they are keeping track of you even when you think they are indifferent. Cats can develop attachment styles that mirror those described in human developmental psychology. Research by Daniel Mills and colleagues at the University of Lincoln found that cats show signs of secure and insecure attachment when separated from their owners in a manner adapted from the strange situation procedure, the classic developmental psychology experiment used to study infant attachment. Secure cats explored confidently in the presence of their owner and showed a particular greeting response upon reunion. Cats with less secure attachment were either clingy and distressed, or notably indifferent in patterns that paralleled anxious and avoidant human attachment styles. Cats are not bonded to humans the way dogs are, but the bonds that do form are structured, real, and meaningfully individual. John Bradshaw, a cat behaviour researcher at the University of Bristol and the author of Cat Sense, has argued that cats essentially treat their human owners the way they would treat other cats. Rather than mapping human social structure onto a master and pet hierarchy, the cat incorporates the human into its existing social framework. You're a large, oddly shaped, surprisingly reliable cat. You don't hunt particularly well. You give confusing signals. But you are warm, you provide food, and you occasionally make acceptable physical contact. In the cat's social taxonomy, that qualifies as family. Cats in multi-cat households maintain complex social structures that are often invisible to their owners. These structures are not organised around dominance hierarchies in the way dog packs are. Instead, they are organised around preferred associates, spatial territories, and time-sharing arrangements. Two cats in the same house may almost never be in the same room at the same time, not because they hate each other, but because they have negotiated a timeshare of the house's best spots. Other cats form genuine pair bonds, spending hours in close contact, grooming each other, sleeping pressed together, showing every sign of what looks like deep affection. The social lives of cats are rich, private, and often happening at a scale and register that humans simply don't notice. Cats groom each other in a behaviour called allogrooming, and this behaviour functions as social bonding as well as hygiene. Cats that engage in allogrooming are demonstrating trust, comfort, and closeness. The neck and head are areas a cat cannot easily groom on its own, and so offering to groom them is an act of genuine generosity in the cat social world. When a cat licks your hand or your hair, it is placing you in the category of individuals it trusts enough to groom. You're not just a human to that cat, you're someone worth taking care of. Cats who live with humans in close quarters will adjust their activity patterns to align more closely with human schedules. This is not something cats do naturally. Left to their own rhythms, they are crepuscular, most active at dawn and dusk. But cats living intimately with humans have been documented shifting their activity peaks toward the hours their owners are awake. They are in effect choosing to spend time in the same temporal space as the person they live with. It is a quiet and often unnoticed form of accommodation, but it reflects something real about how cats orient themselves toward the people they are bonded to. The sound a cat makes when watching birds through a window, that rapid, chattering, clicking sound, may actually be an instinctive vocalization associated with the final bite of a kill. Ethologists who have studied cat hunting behavior suggest this sound mimics the bite a cat delivers to the back of a prey animal's neck, the killing bite. When a cat cannot get to the bird and makes this sound anyway, it may be expressing both excitement and frustration through the same motor pattern. It is the sound of a predator watching prey it cannot reach, producing the gesture of capture involuntarily. Cats have preferences for specific types of touch, and they are not shy about enforcing them. Most cats prefer to be touched around the base of the ears, beneath the chin, and along the cheeks, where the scent glands are concentrated. The belly, despite being frequently offered to humans, is almost universally a trap. The belly is a cat's most vulnerable area, and exposing it is a sign of trust. But touching it without invitation often triggers what is sometimes called the belly trap reflex, a sudden grab and bite that is reflexive rather than aggressive. The cat is not being inconsistent. The roll and the bite are two different systems, one of relaxation, one of defense, and they can coexist simultaneously. Cats use their environment in highly deliberate ways. The high points in any room, shelves, tops of cabinets, the backs of sofas, are preferred observation posts. From height, a cat can monitor the entire room without being approached from behind. This is not paranoia, it is the behavioural inheritance of a small predator that is also prey. Even in a home with no threats, the cat's brain is still doing the work of threat assessment, still using space strategically. When your cat climbs to the highest point in a room and sits there watching you, it is doing something that feels very much like surveillance, because it is. Scratching is not destructive behaviour, it is maintenance and communication. Cats have scent glands in their paws, and scratching leaves both a visual mark and a scent mark. The visual mark communicates presence and territory. The scent mark communicates more specific information about the individual cat. Scratching also stretches the muscles of the shoulders, back and legs, and removes the dead outer layer of the claws. A cat that scratches your furniture is not misbehaving in its own framework. It is doing exactly what it is supposed to do. The communication breakdown is architectural, not behavioral. Cats can be trained. This is not as well known as it should be. They are not as eager to please as dogs, which means they are not as easy to motivate through praise and approval. But cats respond readily to positive reinforcement using food rewards, and they can learn complex sequences of behavior, including coming when called, sitting, high-fiving, navigating obstacle courses, and many other tasks. The assumption that cats are untrainable is based largely on the fact that they are uninterested in pleasing humans as an end in itself. Train them towards something they want, and they are perfectly capable learners. They simply negotiate the terms. Cats are obligate carnivores, which means they require nutrients found only in animal tissue. Unlike dogs, who are omnivores, cats cannot synthesize certain essential amino acids, including taurine, on their own. A cat deprived of animal protein will develop serious health problems relatively quickly. This is one reason why feeding cats a vegetarian diet, however well-intentioned, can cause severe medical harm. Their bodies are built from the inside out around the assumption of meat. Everything in the cat's digestive system, its tooth structure, its gut chemistry, its metabolic pathways, is tuned to processing animal protein. This is not a preference. It is a biological necessity. Cats can taste, some things that humans cannot, including certain chemicals associated with decay and meat quality. They cannot taste sweetness at all. A 2005 genetic study found that cats are missing a functional version of the TAS1R2 gene, one of the two genes that form the sweet taste receptor in mammals. Since cats eat no carbohydrates in the wild, and sugar has no nutritional value for them, the receptor was probably lost to genetic drift at some point in their evolutionary history. Your cat is not being polite when it ignores your dessert. It genuinely cannot taste what you're offering. Cats drink very little water relative to their body size, and this is not entirely by design. In the wild, cats get most of their moisture from the prey they eat. Their kidneys evolved in a desert environment and are extraordinarily efficient at concentrating urine. But in a domestic setting, fed primarily on dry kibble, this adaptation can become a vulnerability. Chronic low water intake is associated with kidney disease in cats, which is one of the most common causes of death in older domestic cats. Many cats prefer moving water to still water and will drink significantly more from a fountain than from a bowl. The preference for moving water is thought to be instinctive, as moving water in the wild is less likely to be contaminated. Cats are more likely to eat in company than alone. Studies comparing cats allowed to eat with human company present versus cats left to eat alone found that the social animals ate more and seemed more relaxed when humans were nearby. This finding seems at odds with the popular image of the solitary cat, but it aligns with what research shows about cats' social lives more broadly. Cats are not asocial, they are selectively social. The difference matters, and the preference for company at mealtime suggests that the human presence means something beyond simply being the source of the food. Cats experience something that researchers describe as separation anxiety, though it typically presents differently than in dogs. Where an anxious dog might bark, destroy property, or self-injure, an anxious cat is more likely to show changes in appetite, litter box use, grooming behaviour, or to hide. These are subtler signals, easy to miss, and they have meant that feline separation anxiety was historically under-recognised and undertreated. A 2020 Brazilian study found that around 30% of cats showed signs consistent with separation anxiety when separated from their primary caregiver. The bond is real, the distress when it is disrupted is real, and the quietness of how cats express it is not evidence of indifference. Cats can learn from watching other cats and from watching humans. This observational learning capacity was demonstrated in studies where cats watched another cat or a human solve a simple problem, such as pulling a lever to obtain food, and then were more likely to attempt the same solution when given the opportunity. The behaviour is most pronounced when the demonstrator is familiar rather than a stranger. Cats learn more readily from those they know. Social bonds appear to facilitate learning in cats just as they do in humans. Your cat watches what you do. Some of it is filing away. There are approximately 250,000 taste buds on a human tongue. A cat has around 470. This is not a limitation. A cat's palate is finely tuned to what it needs. It can detect the amino acid composition of meat with considerable precision. It can identify rotting or spoiled animal protein. It can distinguish between prey animals by taste. The fact that it cannot detect the full range of flavors a human might enjoy is not a poverty of experience. It is a different kind of expertise. Cats are sensitive to emotional atmospheres in ways that go beyond what we can fully explain. Multiple studies have documented that cats behave differently in households where tension is high versus households that are emotionally calm. They are more likely to hide, to show changes in grooming, and to become less active in stressful environments. Conversely, in stable, positive environments, cats are more likely to be exploratory, playful, and socially engaged. They are not reading your emotions the way a dog does, with overt enthusiastic responsiveness. But they are registering something, and it shapes their behavior in measurable ways. The feline immune system communicates with the brain in ways that produce sickness behavior, a cluster of responses including lethargy, reduced appetite, social withdrawal, and increased sleep. This is not the cat choosing to be sick. It is the immune system triggering behavioral changes that serve recovery. A sick cat that hides away is not depressed in a human sense. It is following ancient biological programming that says go somewhere quiet, conserve energy, and let the body heal. Understanding this makes it easier to respond appropriately to a sick cat. The hiding is not abandonment. It is a reasonable strategy in the face of a physical challenge. Cats have been shown to prefer the smell of familiar humans over unfamiliar ones. In a 2021 study, cats presented with scent-covered cloths belonging to their owner versus a stranger showed distinct responses to the familiar smell, often rubbing against the cloth or sitting beside it. This olfactory preference for the owner's scent aligns with how cats organize their social world, around scent communities that mark who is safe and who is not. Your smell means something specific to your cat. It is part of how your cat identifies you as someone who belongs in its world. Cats have 4 types of photoreceptor cells in their eyes, compared to 3 in humans. One of these additional receptor types allows cats to see in near ultraviolet light. Their visual world therefore includes wavelengths that are invisible to human perception. White fur, white flowers, and many common materials reflect UV light brightly and would appear lit up or glowing to a cat in a way they do not to us. The world your cat moves through is not the same world you see, even standing in the same room. It is richer in some dimensions, different in others. Understanding this is important for understanding why cats behave as they do in environments that seem perfectly ordinary to humans. Although cats see better in low light than humans, their colour vision is more limited. They are dichromats in many conditions, meaning they see a narrower range of colours, with reds and greens appearing similar or muted. Their world is probably closer to what a blue-green palette would suggest, with blues and yellows more distinct than reds and pinks. Their extraordinary night vision comes from a layer of reflective cells behind the retina called the tapetum lucidum, which reflects light back through the photoreceptors and effectively doubles the eye's sensitivity to available light. This is the structure that makes a cat's eyes glow in photographs and in headlights. The glowing is the eye recycling every photon twice. Cats have approximately 244 bones, slightly more than the approximately 206 in an adult human skeleton. The extra bones are mostly in the tail and spine. The feline spine is extraordinarily flexible, with elastic cushioning between the vertebrae that allows for a degree of torsional movement unavailable to most other mammals. This flexibility is what allows cats to right themselves during a fall in the phenomenon called the righting reflex. A cat dropped from a short distance will rotate its body in mid-air, using the tail as a counterweight to orient its paws toward the ground. This reflex is present in kittens by 6 weeks of age and remains active throughout life. The righting reflex leads to something counterintuitive. Cats falling from very high places actually survive at better rates than cats falling from medium heights. This is because beyond a certain altitude they reach terminal velocity and then relax, spreading their limbs to increase air resistance like a flying squirrel. In a relaxed state, muscles absorb impact better than in a tensed state. Cats that fall from medium heights, where they haven't had time to relax, often fare worse. This is one of those discoveries that sounds implausible the first time you hear it, And then, once you have heard the explanation, seems almost inevitable. Cats have been domesticated for roughly 10,000 years. Humans have kept records of scientific discovery for roughly 3,000. This means that for most of the time cats have lived with humans, they have been almost entirely mysterious to us. Everything we now know about their cognition, their emotions, their social lives, their sensory worlds we have learned in the last 100 years, and the bulk of the serious scientific work has happened in the last 30. We are very much at the beginning of understanding the animal that has lived in our homes for longer than most of our civilizations have existed. Every discovery is a correction, a place where a quiet assumption turns out to be wrong, and something more interesting turns out to be true. Cats are highly sensitive to vibration. They can detect seismic activity before humans can. Before major earthquakes, cats have been documented becoming restless, hiding, attempting to flee, or behaving in ways that alarm their owners without any apparent cause. Japanese researchers studying earthquake prediction have documented this phenomenon, and several animal behavior scientists have taken it seriously as a potential early warning system. The mechanism is probably a combination of sensitivity to infrasound, the low-frequency vibrations that precede earthquakes, and to ground vibrations transmitted through the pores. Whatever the exact pathway, the cats know something is happening before our instruments do. A cat's liver is different from a human liver in a way that has significant medical consequences. Cats have limited ability to metabolize certain compounds because they lack specific enzymes that other mammals use for detoxification. Paracetamol, found in products like Tylenol, is toxic to cats in even very small amounts. So is aspirin. Many essential oils are harmful. Certain plants that are benign or even medicinal for humans are dangerous for cats. The cat's liver evolved to handle only what appeared in its prey, which was almost exclusively animal tissue. It is not equipped for the broad chemical landscape of a human household, and this is something every cat owner should understand clearly. Cats have been associated with mystery, the supernatural and the unknown in cultures across the world for most of recorded history. Ancient Egyptians revered them as sacred, associated them with the goddess Bastet, and punished their killing with death. Medieval Europeans in some periods feared them as agents of darkness, associated them with witchcraft, and in episodes of religious hysteria, persecuted them with horrifying consequences. In Japan, the Maneki Neko, the beckoning cat figure, is a symbol of good fortune. In Norse mythology, the goddess Freya's chariot was drawn by cats. In Islam, the Prophet Muhammad is said to have been deeply fond of cats, and there is a tradition in Islamic culture that cats are ritually clean and should be treated with kindness. Across all of these traditions, what seems consistent is that humans have always sensed something about cats that they could not quite categorize, something that did not fit neatly into the other animal categories, something that seemed to belong to the space between the familiar and the unknown. We were not entirely wrong. The oldest known cat-human burial site was discovered in Cyprus, dating to approximately 9,500 years ago. A human was interred alongside a cat, both facing west, both in ceremonial poses. There are no wildcats native to Cyprus. The cat must have been brought there deliberately by humans. This is, so far, the earliest definitive evidence of cats as valued companions, rather than merely tolerated pest controllers. Whatever the relationship between that particular human and that particular cat, it clearly mattered enough to someone to arrange that they should be buried together. That is 10,000 years of partnership, and the science of understanding it has barely begun. Wild cats in Africa and the Middle East, specifically the African wildcat, Felis sylvestris libica, are the direct ancestors of all domestic cats. Genetic studies published in 2007 in the journal Science traced all domestic cats back to a small founding population of these wild cats in the Near East. Remarkably, the African wildcat and the domestic cat are so genetically similar that they can interbreed freely, producing fertile offspring. The differences between them are behavioural rather than anatomical. The domestic cat is, in nearly every measurable biological sense, a wildcat that has made a behavioural adjustment toward humans. It carries all the same equipment. The wildness is not gone, it is simply cohabiting. Cats can learn their own names. A 2019 study published in Scientific Reports found that cats could distinguish their own name from other words of similar phonetic length and stress pattern. including the names of other cats in the household. They showed orienting responses, ear movements, head turns, and in some cases body movements specifically to their own name. The cats did not come when their name was called because of course they didn't. But the recognition was there, clear in their physiological responses. They know what you call them. They are simply deciding each time whether to acknowledge it. The genetic study of cat coat patterns has revealed something surprising. Many coat variations in domestic cats arose from the same kinds of genetic pathways as those found in other large cats. The tabby pattern, the most common coat pattern in domestic cats, arises from the same gene pathway as the spotted pattern in cheetahs and the banded pattern in tigers. The genes that make your tabby cat striped are cousins to the genes that make a tiger magnificent. The scale is different. The palette is the same. Cats have been found aboard human watercraft since ancient times. Egyptian paintings depict cats on boats. Cats were brought to ships to control the rodents that would otherwise destroy stored food. Over centuries, cats spread across the world aboard trading vessels, arriving in places they had never naturally evolved, from Britain to Australia to the Americas. The global distribution of domestic cats is, in significant part, a map of human trade routes. Every place humans carried goods by sea is a place cats eventually arrived. They are, in this sense, an unintentional monument to human commerce. Feral cats form distinct social communities in which females often live in closely related family groups. A feral colony is not a loose collection of solitary animals. It is a structured social unit in which aunts, mothers, and daughters cooperate in raising kittens, will nurse each other's offspring and defend their communal territory together. Males generally live at the periphery, entering the core territory mainly for mating. These colonies have stable membership over time and complex internal relationships. Understanding this has changed how animal welfare organisations approach feral cat management, recognising that disrupting a colony's social structure can cause more harm than the problem it was meant to solve. Cats are not always the apex predator in the environments they inhabit. Foxes, coyotes, large owls and other predators will kill and sometimes eat cats. In urban environments, cars and dogs are significant threats. This vulnerability to predation, real or perceived, shapes much of cat behaviour, including the preference for height, the tendency to hide, the nocturnal alertness, and the careful scanning of the environment that you can observe in any cat sitting by a window. The cat is simultaneously predator and prey, and it knows it. The alertness is not paranoia. It is appropriate calibration. Cats in the wild live on average 2 to 3 years. Domestic cats live on average 12 to 15 years, with some living well into their 20s. The longest-lived cat on record was Cream Puff, who lived in Austin, Texas, and died in 2005 at the age of 38 years and 3 days. She was owned by a man named Jake Perry, who also owned the second oldest cat on record, and who reportedly supplemented his cat's diets with unusual foods including bacon, eggs, and coffee with cream. Creme Puff was not a scientific study, but she was by any measure an extraordinary cat. The International Cat Association currently recognises approximately 70 distinct cat breeds. By comparison, the American Kennel Club recognises around 200 breeds of dog. Dogs have been selectively bred for specific working purposes for thousands of years, producing an extraordinary range of body types, temperaments, and behavioural profiles. Cats have been bred far less intensively, and the differences between breeds, while real, are less dramatic. Most domestic cats are not purebred at all. They are, genetically speaking, a mosaic of ancient wildcat ancestry, modified by 10,000 years of loose association with humans. They are not standardised. They are variable and individual in ways that reflect their more autonomous evolutionary history. Polydactyly, the condition of having extra toes, occurs in cats at a notably higher rate than in most mammals. Some cats have as many as 7 or 8 toes on a single paw. These cats are sometimes called Hemingway cats, after the writer Ernest Hemingway, who received a 6-toed cat as a gift from a ship captain and kept dozens of cats at his home in Key West, Florida. His descendants still live, there today. Polydactyly in cats is caused by a dominant gene and tends to cluster in certain geographic areas, particularly the northeastern coast of the United States and parts of Britain, which suggests the trait spread along specific maritime trade routes. Sailors may have preferentially kept polydactyl cats, believing their extra toes gave them better balance on ships. Cats sleep in close proximity to their owners because they find it physically reassuring. Studies monitoring cat sleep physiology have found that cats sleep more deeply and cycle through sleep stages more fully when they are near their human caregivers than when sleeping alone. The presence of a trusted human seems to reduce the cat's need for vigilance during sleep, allowing for deeper rest. From the cat's perspective, sleeping near you is not about warmth alone, it is about safety. You are part of its security system, and its willingness to be unconscious in your presence is a significant statement about how it categorizes you in its world. Cats yawn when they are relaxed rather than tired. While human yawning is associated with drowsiness and social contagion, cat yawning more often indicates a shift into a relaxed state. A cat that stretches and yawns in your presence is signaling that it feels safe enough to let its guard down. You're not boring it. You are in that moment reassuring it. The way a cat greets you when you return home varies significantly based on the quality and nature of the bond. Secure, well-bonded cats often greet with a raised tail, a trill, rubbing against the returning person's legs, and then moving away to allow the person to settle. The greeting is brief but definite. Less bonded cats may show no overt greeting at all. Cats with anxious attachment may become clingy, or may initially hide before approaching. These differences are not random. They are consistent within individual relationships, and they reflect something real about the emotional landscape of how that cat relates to that person. Cats have been used in scientific research in ways that have contributed significantly to human medical knowledge. Studies of the feline visual cortex in the 1960s, conducted by David Hubel and Torsten Wiesel at Harvard University, revealed the fundamental principles of how the mammalian brain processes visual information. The discovery won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1981. Subsequent research built on the feline model to develop treatments for conditions including amblyopia, the condition known as lazy eye in human children. The scientific debt owed to cats in understanding the visual brain is substantial. It is one of those chapters in the history of medicine where the path from basic science to treatment is unusually direct. Cats have been observed engaging in what researchers describe as play well into old age, though the intensity and duration typically decrease. Play in adult cats is not frivolous. It maintains hunting motor patterns, keeps reflexes sharp, provides exercise, and may have a significant role in mental stimulation and well-being. Cats that are provided with adequate play opportunities show lower rates of behavioural problems and appear, by available measures, more content. The tendency to stop providing play enrichment as cats age, on the assumption that older cats want only to sleep, is a misreading of what cats actually need at all life stages. Cats do not always communicate with other cats using body language alone. They sometimes use vocalizations with other cats, particularly in high-stakes situations such as confrontations over territory. The yowl between two cats facing each other across a boundary is a tense, unambiguous communication, but they also communicate through scent over time, leaving marks that other cats read minutes, hours, or days later. This allows a cat to carry on a kind of asynchronous conversation with every other cat that passes through its territory. The marks say, "I was here. This is mine. I am this old. I am this healthy." Other cats read all of it. Cats have individual preferences for play styles that are consistent over time. Some cats prefer horizontal play, chasing things on the ground. Others prefer vertical play, leaping to catch things in the air. Some cats prefer solo play. Others are only interested in play that involves a human. Understanding what kind of play a specific cat enjoys makes it much easier to engage it successfully. The assumption that all cats want the same things is one of the more persistent misunderstandings in the human-cat relationship. Cats produce around 100 different sounds. By comparison, dogs produce around 10. The range includes the purr, the meow, the chirp, the chatter, the trill, the yowl, the hiss, the growl, and a variety of subtler sounds that do not have common names. This vocal diversity reflects the complexity of the cat's communicative situation. A highly social species dealing with humans who communicate primarily through sound has developed a rich acoustic toolkit. Much of it was developed specifically for the context of human interaction. The cat's voice is, in many ways, a voice it grew for you. Scientists studying cat behaviour now broadly agree that the domestic cat is a genuine social species, not a facultatively social one, as was believed for most of the 20th century. The old framing of cats as fundamentally solitary and asocial was based in large part on the behaviour of feral cats, who were never correctly understood as the baseline for domestic cat behaviour. Domestic cats, raised with human contact, living in human households, are not solitary. They form bonds, they maintain relationships, they adjust their behaviour to accommodate the social beings they live with. They are not like dogs, but they are not like wildcats either. They are something in between, something that has not quite been seen before in the evolutionary record, an animal that chose, gradually, imperfectly, and on its own terms, to live with us. There is a phenomenon that some cat owners describe and researchers have now begun to study more seriously. Cats that sit by the doors or windows in the hours before an absent owner returns, before any sound or cue could plausibly signal the return. Rupert Sheldrake, a biologist who studies unexplained animal behaviour, documented dozens of these cases in his book, Dogs That Know When Their Owners Are Coming Home. His cat data is less extensive, but the pattern exists. Skeptics have argued for conventional explanations, routine, sensory cues, owner expectation colouring memory. But Sheldrake has also pointed to cases involving owners returning at randomised times via different routes. The data is not conclusive. It is not explainable by current models. It is the kind of thing that science has not yet caught up with. And in the history of animal behaviour, that is sometimes exactly where the most interesting findings eventually turn out to live. Ancient Romans kept cats to protect grain stores and wrote about them with a familiarity that suggests the human-cat relationship was already fully established by the 1st century AD. Pliny the Elder mentioned cats. Roman soldiers brought them to the British Isles. Medieval European households understood cats primarily in relation to their utility as pest controllers, though individual affection is also documented. Samuel Johnson, the 18th century English writer, was famously devoted to his cat Hodge, and is said to have personally purchased oysters for him so that the servants would not resent running the errand. That level of care, that particular quality of devotion and solicitousness on behalf of an animal, sounds entirely recognisable across 3 centuries. Some things about the human-cat relationship have not changed at all. Cats display what ethologists call a flexible dominant structure in their interactions with humans. This means the relationship does not have a fixed hierarchy in the way dog-human relationships sometimes do. Sometimes the cat leads and the human follows, particularly in interactions the cat initiates. Sometimes the human leads, particularly in interactions involving food, veterinary care, or transport. The relationship between a person and their cat is genuinely negotiated. It shifts moment to moment, decision by decision. And the cat's willingness to participate in this negotiation, to return again and again to a relationship that is sometimes uncomfortable, suggests that the relationship itself means something to the cat beyond the purely practical. A 2019 study from Oregon State University found that the majority of cats in a choice experiment preferred social interaction with humans over food, scent, and toys. This directly challenged the assumption that cats are primarily motivated by food and barely interested in humans. When all 4 categories of stimulation were present and the cat could choose freely, the most common first choice was human interaction. Not all cats made this choice, but the majority did. This finding has not yet penetrated popular consciousness in the way it deserves to. Most people still believe their cat loves them primarily because they control the food. The evidence increasingly suggests this is not the whole story. Cats can be deeply affected by the loss of a human companion. When owners die or move away, cats have been documented showing behavioural changes consistent with what we would call grief in other species, including loss of appetite, changes in sleep patterns, increased vocalisation, searching behaviour, and social withdrawal. The ASPCA conducted a survey finding that nearly half of cats showed changes in eating and behaviour following the death of a fellow pet or human companion. The changes generally resolved over time, as they do in most grieving processes. But their presence in the first place is meaningful. Cats are not indifferent to loss, they simply express it in the register available to them. Cats use their claws not only for hunting and climbing, but for communication. When a cat needs you with retracted claws, versus when it needs with extended claws, it is expressing very different levels of intensity. A cat that gently rests a paw on your arm with weight is making contact. A cat that hooks a single claw lightly into your sleeve to prevent you from leaving is making a request. These distinctions are lost when we describe all such behaviours as the same thing. The claw is an instrument with a vocabulary. Learning to read the vocabulary changes what the behaviours mean. cats have been observed demonstrating what might be called preferential treatment toward individuals who have previously shown them kindness. In research settings where cats were exposed to multiple handlers, some of whom were consistently gentle and attentive, and some of whom were neutral or somewhat inattentive, cats over time showed clear preferences for the kind and attentive handlers, seeking them out more frequently, relaxing more fully in their presence, and showing more social behaviour toward them. Kindness registers. It is tracked. It shapes the relationship in ways that are measurable. The question we started with, does your cat really love you, now has something closer to a real answer. Not a simple yes, because the word love, as humans use it, carries freight that may not map perfectly onto feline experience. But the evidence is substantial, nuanced, and increasingly clear. Cats form genuine individual attachments to specific humans. They seek proximity, they show distress at separation, they read emotional states, they remember faces and voices, they adjust their behaviour to match yours, they prefer your presence to your absence. And they have, over thousands of years of shared life, developed a vocabulary aimed specifically at you. If that is not love, it is something close enough that the distinction may matter more to scientists than it does to either of you. There is something quietly astonishing about this. You are sharing your life with an animal that evolved over millions of years to hunt alone in the dark, that has never been bred for attachment the way dogs have been, that came to human civilization of its own choosing and has stayed, more or less, of its own choosing ever since. And this animal, this small predator with 32 ear muscles and ultraviolet vision and a language it invented for you, has apparently decided that you are worth coming back to. That is not nothing. That is, if you listen carefully, a remarkable thing. And so, here we are. 100 quiet discoveries, each one a small light, and together something larger. The picture of an animal that is far more present, more aware, more attached, and more communicative than the popular idea of the aloof, independent cat would suggest. Science has not demystified cats. It has made them more interesting. Wherever your cat is right now, whether it is pressed against your side or watching you from somewhere across the room, or curled in a small sphere of fur in a patch of lamplight, it is doing something. It is tracking the temperature of the room with its paws. It is mapping your breathing rate with its ears. It is placing you precisely and continuously in the social world it carries in its mind. You are in there. You have been in there since the day you met. That is worth sitting with for a moment before you sleep. If tonight's journey into the feline mind brought you something, a little more wonder, a little more warmth toward the animal sharing your home, or simply a softer way to end the day, I'd be so grateful if you liked this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps others find their way here. And if there's a cat asleep somewhere near you right now, take a moment to notice. It chose that spot. It chose to be near you. That choice, quiet and unhurried and very much its own, is something science is only beginning to fully understand. Good night.